Hello everyone, this is HP the Lonesome Artist, back at it again. I just thought it would be really cool if I made an animation to show you guys how I make animations, cause I know some of you seem to like it, and I was like, what the hey, why not? So that's why this video exists. I'll walk you through step by step my animation process and how I'm very unprofessional at it, and you shouldn't look up to me as a role model because I suck. But I try my best, and I am proud of what I am able to accomplish, so let's get started. So when I start out, it normally starts with an idea. This idea is normally caused by my constant daydreaming about fictional characters and settings, and this normally goes hand in hand with music. I normally get my ideas from pairing music with characters in my mind. And in this animation case, it was Still Alive from the video game Portal, and characters from A Hat in Time, which is another video game, and it's one of my favorite video games, and I love it so much, it's so precious. But yeah, I decided to pair these two things together because why not? The second step for me is motivation. It means nothing, but also everything to have the first step done. Because if you have the first step done, then great, you have an idea. But it means nothing if you have no motivation to make that idea happen. I mean, you could still have the idea in your head, but it's going nowhere unless you somehow get that urge or that push to animate it, or to write about it, or to create a song about it, or there's thousands of different ways you can go about it, but for me it was animation, and I got the motivation mainly because I wanted to make this YouTube video, and another big part, which is kind of embarrassing to admit, but Sinatra, who's one of the characters you're seeing on screen right now, he's my comfort character, and so he motivates me a whole bunch to do writing, to do lyrics, to animate, and it's kind of cheesy, but that's what happens. So I purposefully decided to do A Hat in Time characters here because I knew that would help get me through making this video a little more than it normally would. Third step, of course, once you get the motivation, is to start it. And that means storyboarding out segments of the animation. Storyboarding is commonly used by, I guess, it used to be used a lot by Disney. I think it still is, but I'm not sure. They don't really talk about it that much, which kind of sucks, but I'm 99% sure it's still around. A lot of people, a lot of productions use it to help them get a grounding basis on what motions, what emotions, and what settings will be taking place in these different bits of the entire animation. Okay, but just kidding, I never made a storyboard for this. I'm saying it now because storyboarding is a very good thing to start practicing and getting the usage of, because it really is helpful. But I just freehanded this entire animation. I am not professional. As I said, please don't look up to me as a role model, I beg of you. So I went straight into the other step, which is rough draft. It's where you do very unclean lines, very sketchy lines, which I'm good at because that's just my normal art style. I laid out the motion with these little rough sketches, as you can see in the video I'm playing right now. For most of my animations, I use the app called Flip-A-Clip. It's really helpful, really easy, and I also imported the audio from the song Still Alive into the animation so that I could figure out what beats line up with what song lyric. Not the best thing to do what I did and use the rough sketch for the final product, especially when you want to appear very professional. So then this carries over to the next step, and yes, I'm just saying next step because I forgot what number we're on, but anyway, this is the cleanup step. This is the step where you make sure the characters look good so that you can start coloring further down the line. It really helps to have clean lines when you're trying to color things, and especially dark lines, because if you drew your rough sketches in pencil like I did, if you are doing a background of any sorts, you don't want your character to fade into the background, you want them to be separate from it. Even though I didn't do cleanup lines to make the drawings themselves look not rigid and sketchy, I did make sure that the sketchiness didn't intertwine with one another, so that it didn't look like Hat Kid was phasing into Snatcher and Snatcher was phasing into Hat Kid, because they are not the same entity, they are staying separate characters. Now we move on to coloring! Finally! Woo! I didn't know the colors for Hat Kid, so I had to pull up a reference or two to make sure I had the right colors. I kinda had to guess in the end, but I did use the reference just to make sure I was close enough, because you don't want to just guess without a reference. Otherwise, your mind may not remember the character's colors as well as you think you do. I also had to look up the backgrounds, because I wanted to create the backgrounds in color. Kind of a bad decision on my part, because it took many days to finish. But yeah, I decided to torture myself, color the backgrounds too. What the hey? So I had to pull up images of Subcon Forest, which, if you don't know, is a location in a hand time. Not because I was trying to pull the exact colors from the forest like I was for the characters, but more so because I wanted the forest to look like, well, how the forest looks in the game. I didn't want it to just look like a random forest. No, this is Subcon. It needs to look like Subcon. And the last step that I did in this particular animation is the lighting in the background. Earlier on, when I was coloring the characters, I tried to put some lighting on Snatcher's face, but I quickly stopped that because it was too time consuming and I had to move on from the characters into the background. But for the background, I did not hesitate to do lighting. Lighting in the background was kind of a must in this case. Sometimes it isn't, sometimes you can just leave it without lighting and it's good to go. But in my case, with this animation, I felt the urge, like the completionist urge, to make the mushrooms glow this certain color and to make the backgrounds look like they came from the game. And in the game, the forest is kind of glowing because half of it's on fire. So don't ask me why, I don't know why, but half of the forest is on fire. So I had to make sure there was some sort of orange lighting on one side of the forest and another more bluish purple lighting on the other side where there's a swamp. And the mushrooms, I just wanted to look aesthetically pleasing. I just wanted that beautiful bioluminescent glow that looked just like a dream, a magical land, and that is what it is. And so I did that. That's it, folks. See you next time. Hopefully you enjoyed this little insight into my very scatterbrained way of making animations, and see you later.
This was a triumph. I'm making a note here, huge success. It's hard to overstate my satisfaction. Aperture science. Do what we must because we can. For the good of all of us, except the ones who are dead.